At WCTCAM.com. Jersey moves fast. Join the show that keeps you one step ahead. Jersey Central with Bert Barron on the new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC.
It's 8:08. Welcome to hour number 3 of Jersey Central on the new Talk Radio 1450 WCTC, the voice of Central Jersey. Good morning to you. It's Bert. Partly cloudy, 73. We'll get to the low to mid-90s today. So your full forecast and a traffic update coming up at 8:15. We'll do our contest in this 8 o'clock hour as well. The voice of Sparky Lyle is your cue to call. If you're the 14th caller, you'll win 4 tickets to see the Somerset Patriots on August 19th at TD Bank Ballpark. Just so happens to be the 16th annual Veterans of America Day game. And you'll be the winner if you're the 14th caller, but listen for the voice of Sparky, all right? And, of course, we'll do our need-to-know things coming up a little bit later on in this hour as well. Boy, speaking of something very important that you need to know, the New Jersey Supreme Court delivered something that's being described as a huge victory for patients who sue hospitals and doctors, and it has to do with sharing the facts of treatment with patients who are suing for malpractice and some other things. This is a pretty significant change. My guest on the Miller Lite Jersey Central Newsmaker hotline actually served as counsel in one of these in this ruling here. He is with Britcher Leone LLC, which is located in Glen Rock, New Jersey, and here to comment on this. Let's welcome in E. Drew Britcher to WCTC. Good morning. It's Bert Barron. How are you today?
Good morning, Bert. Very well, thank you.
Good. I'm trying to look at this from both sides. This ruling by the New Jersey Supreme Court, is this something that is critical? Is this important? Let's start with the patients first. What will patients take away with this, and what are some things that patients can learn now or can do now or find out about now that they couldn't before?
Well, let's start off with the Patient Safety Act was passed as somewhat of a compromise between the interests of patients and hospitals to see to it that hospitals would have to do what would be called a root cause analysis of what are called serious preventable adverse events. Unfortunately, in the process of giving them a privilege to those communications, some lawyers have tried to hide facts that have occurred during the care of patients from the patients during litigation. This decision by the Supreme Court provided that balance back to the process, essentially saying that the facts are always something the patient has a right to. There just may be a means by which the court has to try and provide those facts to the patient if they're not otherwise known, other than utilizing the documents that are being provided to the Department of Health to comply with the Patient Safety Act.
I see. Are hospitals okay with this? Are hospitals, you'd like to think that hospitals, there's a certain amount of transparency, though. Are hospitals comfortable with this information now? Is this way everything's out in the open between them and whoever their patients may be?
Well, I would tell you that the Hospital Association, along with the organization that I work with, the New Jersey Association for Justice, were both involved in the crafting of this legislation and the balance that it drew. And in fact, since the decision has been rendered, a member of the Council of the Hospital Association was quoted as indicating, so long as the privilege continues to the hospital's actual analytical process, they're okay with the idea that facts should be given to the patient. It's just important that analytical process is protected.
Does this impact every hospital in our states? I know maybe we have some hospitals that are sort of built on religious foundations and whatnot, but is every hospital impacted by this?
Yes, this piece of legislation is one that not only affects every hospital, but it also impacts all of the nursing homes in the state that also have an obligation to have a patient safety committee and this type of root cause analysis type of analytical process to try and help avoid future incidents from occurring.
I see. And I see how this can really be helpful to people. Let me try to give you a real-world example. If someone is maybe facing a major surgery of some point, let's say it's a major heart operation or something, and they choose a particular hospital to have this particular procedure done. Now this would obligate the hospital to sort of detail sort of their history of performing this specific operation and the success rate that it's had? Is that kind of what this will now make available to patients?
There's already other means by which that information is available.
Okay.
The Patient Safety Act really deals with what happens after there's been a particular incident so as to try and see to it that maybe a particular outcome only happens once in a particular hospital, particular type of error. And so by having this common reporting to the Department of Health, they can potentially see a pattern and then send memos back out to the hospitals to say, watch out for this particular type of problem so that it doesn't happen in your hospital.
I see. Is this in some degrees a win for hospitals? Because you know as well as I do how much they like to sort of promote the facts about, well, we're rated this in customer care, and we won this award this year, and we were voted best hospital by this publication or whatever. Is this something now that hospitals can turn around and say, well, you know what, now that we're transparent with all this information, we can talk more about how successful we are or how good we are? Is this in any way a positive for the hospitals in that respect?
Well, I don't know if it's a positive in that respect as much as it's a positive for the hospitals that it reestablished that this particular privilege of this analytical process is being maintained while seeing to it that the patients get to know the facts. How hospitals may then use that opportunity to try and promote themselves, that's not something I feel comfortable commenting on.
I see. I understand. Okay. And just to parallel this would be like if someone went to a restaurant and said, I'll have the roast beef on rye. You know, the waitress says, well, okay, but I do have to tell you that last week somebody had the roast beef on rye and they went to the hospital with some stomach pains. It's kind of similar like that?
It's particularly similar in the sense that the person who had the stomach pains has to be told that they suffer happen so that they can take the necessary steps to protect themselves.
I see. Okay. And I was delivered a rather lengthy document before we had you on here today. It was about a 55-page, very PDF legalese. It's probably something that's light reading for what you do for a living, sir. But I didn't get a chance to review. That's like, that's the Reader's Digest version for you, I'm sure. This is this pages of these medical records and whatnot. We're talking about thousands of pages that brought us to this decision here, right?
Yes, the case that was involved was one where there was an error that occurred in the provision of antibiotics to a patient, and it was essentially buried in a 4,000-page record.
Wow.
The defendant essentially took the position with the court, well, we already gave them the facts. It's in the medical record. And what the court says, well, no, hold on. When it came time to try and protect your privilege, you gave the court a narrative of where these things could be found. Why shouldn't the patient be given a narrative to show them where the facts actually lie within their record, and in fact have established once again that the facts belong to the patient. So we actually have regulations that say all the facts have to be in the patient's medical record. So now we can make sure people don't try to hide things from patients.
Gotcha. Okay, so a landmark ruling by the New Jersey Supreme Court, and I want to thank you for being here this morning to talk about it. Where can someone go to get some more information about Britcher Leone LLC?
They would go to www.medmalnj.com.
Very good. E. Drew Britcher, great to have you on WCTC this morning, and thank you for the information, all right?
Thank you.
All right. You got it. All right. Jersey Central Traffic and